Donald Trump has hit Democrats and Hillary Clinton with a major lawsuit over the Russiagate lies. Politico says the sprawling lawsuit accuses a large cast of racketeering conspiracy over allegations that Trump was in Putin's pocket in 2016. And my friends, you need only look at the news and the history of the reporting around Donald Trump to realize, boy, did they lie. I'm actually kind of surprised they thought they could get away with it. But the big picture here is that lawfare is the battlefront. Donald Trump filing this lawsuit when he's expected to be running for president in probably, maybe even this year, he might announce it, maybe next year. Well, it shows that legal tactics will be used, and truth be told, they were already being used in the last election, but they're going to be ramping up. It's not just Donald Trump who is filing a lawsuit. We also have Marjorie Taylor Greene currently facing a lawsuit to try and disqualify her from running for re-election. Of course, this was tried against Madison Cawthorne. A judge threw it out. I don't think you can call this country a democracy or even a constitutional republic at this point. I know that traditionally we are a constitutional republic with democratically elected representatives. Many on the left view this country more as a multicultural democracy, and they're shocked why we don't have democratic votes for policy, although we do sometimes, in referendums. But the reality is, with many of these people going for political victories instead of electoral victories, we're not a country that seeks a cohesive solution to our problems. We're dealing with major crises. We're dealing with food shortages, a looming war in Europe, potentially between NATO and Russia. There's currently a war in Eastern Europe. Does anyone really care? Now, the fascinating thing is moderates and conservatives do, and they're all like, yo, this is really bad. Of course, you still have Trump supporters who very much just support Trump because he's Trump. And then you have the overwhelming majority of the left who just don't like Republicans or Trump because Trump. Me, I'm kind of just like, yo, fix the problems and we can talk. Joe Biden certainly can't fix these problems. And now we're dealing with the ramifications of people who voted for Joe Biden. Inflation is through the roof. Gas prices are through the roof. We have reports that some states are going to have to give out stimulus checks, which will only result in more inflation. So as to what happens in 2024, in 2022's November election, I don't know. But Joe Biden is saying that he's fortunate Donald Trump is going to be running because he's looking forward to that rematch. Yo, I don't think it'll go well for you, Biden. Now, granted, I was wrong. I didn't think Biden could win in the first place, but I underestimated how much people did not like Donald Trump. You take a look at the polls now. Favorability and approval, not the same thing, but I will just point out that it's kind of funny that Donald Trump's favorability right now is higher than Joe Biden's job approval rating, which is interesting, especially when you look at Donald Trump's approval rating from just around the time he left office. And in aggregate, Donald Trump's approval rating was higher than Joe Biden's approval rating right now. Could that mean Trump wins and crushes Joe Biden in a rematch election? I mean, it could, but I don't know what's going to happen. We were dealing with a pandemic. People were angry. They were freaking out. I don't think Democrats are going to be able to muster up the ability to defeat Republicans in November of this year or in 2022 unless they resort to lawfare tactics, which is exactly what they're doing. And of course, now we see Donald Trump is not doing something too dissimilar. But I will be fair and say Donald Trump's lawsuit over the Russiagate lies probably has more to do with they already did this stuff to him and he's suing because they did. When it comes to suing to disqualify Madison Cawthorne or Marjorie Taylor Greene, yeah, that's outright political lawfare trying to stop legitimate elections, in my opinion. But let's read this story from Politico. I want to show you some of the history around the psychotic media relating to Trump and Russia and the P-tape. And then you can decide for yourself whether you think his claims may be true. And we'll talk about what's happening with these upcoming elections. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member to help support our work and all of our journalists' work. We have this story right here. January 6th committee to hold contempt vote for 2 former Trump aides. If you think these stories are important, signing up to be a member, make sure our journalists can produce this news for you every day. You'll also get access to exclusive members-only episodes of the Timcast IRL podcast. Those go up Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. But don't forget, you can also just smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share this video right now anywhere you can by clicking that URL, copying it, and pasting it. Most powerful thing you can do. Grassroots marketing. We don't have powerful marketing, and we're not being propped up by YouTube like CNN and MSNBC are. We rely on you and your grassroots effort to share this video to help get the word out there if you like the work that I do. That being said, let's get into that first story from Politico. Donald Trump sues Hillary Clinton and allies over Russia claims. Politico reports former President Donald Trump is suing 2016 Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton in a sprawling case that accuses her of conspiring with dozens of other actors, frequent targets of Trump's conspiracy theories and rage to topple his presidency. The new lawsuit filed Thursday in federal court in Fort Pierce, Florida, accuses Clinton, her campaign, various campaign aides, former FBI Director James Comey, and Democratic National Committee and others of racketeering conspiracy for allegedly joining in an unthinkable plot to falsely accuse Trump of colluding with Russia in the 2016 presidential election. Quote, in the run-up to the 2016 presidential election, Hillary Clinton and her cohorts orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience and is an affront to this nation's democracy, the complaint says. Acting in concert, the defendants maliciously conspired to weave a false narrative that their Republican opponent, Donald J. Trump, was colluding with a hostile foreign sovereignty. Now, it has been reported that one of the reasons Hillary Clinton made this claim about Trump and Russia was because her email scandal was looking really bad. James Comey he eventually comes out and he says, we got to look into these emails or whatever. Everyone gets really pissed off about it. Man, I can't believe it has been 6 or 7 years since all of this stuff was going down. Been a long time. But apparently Hillary Clinton was trying to deflect, or at least that's what's being alleged. The suit accused the defendants of obstruction of justice and theft of trade secrets, as well as unlawful hacking into Trump's private communications. The actions taken in furtherance of their scheme, falsifying evidence, deceiving law enforcement, and exploiting access to highly sensitive data sources, are so outrageous, subversive, and incendiary that even the events of Watergate pale in comparison, the complaint adds. The sprawling 108-page complaint reads like a greatest hits of Trump's long-held grievances against the public figures most closely associated with the investigation of his campaign's ties to Russia in 2016. It stitches together disparate details unearthed in the ongoing investigation by special counsel John Durham, as well as long-known details about the FBI's Russia probe and special counsel Robert Mueller's subsequent investigation, which concluded that Donald Trump did not collude with Russia. And I got to say, do you really believe there's a P tape? People believe some of the craziest trash out there. There's conspiracies, and boy, is this a doozy. If Joe Biden comes out and says, after World War II, we had the liberal world order, and now there's going to be a new world order, and we got to lead it. And you go, oh, yeah, the liberal world order, which the Council on Foreign Relations says was a group of international organizations and corporations coming together to change policy on trade and security and health. And now there's going to be a new version of that. If you point that out, they call you a conspiracy theorist. Thank you, media, for your diligent fact-checking. Yet, if Hillary Clinton comes out, or Huffington Post, or any one of these other outlets and say, could there be a tape of Donald Trump with women of the night relieving themselves on a bed? And everyone's like, maybe. And I'm just like, bro, look, could I believe Donald Trump would do something like that? I could believe it, but you're going to have to provide me with even a shred of evidence if you want me to even bother talking about such a claim. You can't just come out and be like, did you hear about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson did? Yeah. She used to throw oranges at people from on top of her apartment building. No joke. But it's like, it's a ridiculous claim. Just standing up there throwing fruit at people as they pass by your house. I'm trying to keep it family friendly, as you may have noticed. But you could make that claim and I'd be like, can you show me any shred of evidence that something like that ever occurred for any reason? Because otherwise, it's a ridiculous thing to say. Sure. Well, it's been said, hasn't it? Is this really the world we live in? Apparently so. The suit appears to seek more than $72 million in damages, which the complaint says is the tally of legal fees and other costs of defending against the alleged untruths. In another court filing in the case, Trump's attorney asked for only $21 million. Among the defendants in the case is former State Department official spokesperson for Clinton, Philip Raines. The only specific allegations against him in the suit are that he made public statements suggesting that Trump had worked with Russia in 2016 and that he had serious legal woes. The suit says that after Trump reportedly blocked sanctions on Russia in 2018, Raines tweeted, "Yes, collusion, yes, collusion, yes, collusion." The suit also alleges that after the publication of Mueller's report in 2019, Raines said on Fox News that Trump was still under investigation by 17 other entities, including the Southern District of New York. Raines responded nonchalantly to the suit Thursday, quote, "I look forward to deposing the plaintiff." Another defendant in the suit, former FBI counterintelligence agent Peter Strzok, said through his attorney that the suit was likely wildly inaccurate. That is, lawyer Eitan Goldman. Goldman said it was odd that Trump was filing a new suit against Strzok and others, while the former president is fighting efforts to depose him in connection with the suit Strzok filed, claiming he was fired from the FBI for political reasons. The suit was filed by Alina Habba, a Bedminster, NJ-based attorney Trump tapped last year after dismissing other more prominent lawyers who had been handling much of the wide range of litigation he faces in various courts. In the public docket for the case, Trump's attorneys included the home address of the vast majority of the defendants in the suit. For Trump, however, they listed the address of Tickton's law firm. Whatever, man. Yo, let's just be real here. I want to show you this article from Newsweek. 10/24/17 from 2017. Trump Russia P-tape dossier was paid for by Hillary Clinton campaign. This was opposition research, not fact. And they came out with what may be the most ridiculous trash anyone ever read. People believed it was real. My favorite story out of this was that the P-tape story actually came from 4chan. Now, I don't know if that's true. Actually, it's probably not. But this was a funny news cycle that occurred where 4chan claimed they were sowing fake stories about Trump in a P-tape, and some guy believed it and put it in a report that eventually made its way to Hillary Clinton. And then, you know, if you really believe there's a P-tape of Donald Trump, I'm sorry. Look, is it possible? I guess. But I would never put a bet on that. If you could be like a $1 bet wins you $100, and I'd be like, I'll just keep the dollar, man. I guess if you came to me and said a $1 bet's worth $1,000, you'd be dumb not to take any bet that was just $1. But if you came to me and said $1,000 will win you $100,000, I'd be like, no, I need the $1,000. That's a stupid bet to make. You're just giving the money away. Because not just could there be a tape, it's just, yo, are they even if there was, how does such a thing even make it to the public light? I gotta be honest, it's just the most insane thing ever. But let me explain to you. I want you to understand how psychotic the news cycle was throughout these past several years. In 2019, The Cut reported absolutely every single thing we know about the P-tape. All right, let me explain to you why Trump is suing, at least partly, because there are genuinely people who believe this. All right, just hear me out and share this with people. Serious. If you know anybody who's like, I wasn't really paying attention to the news all that much, but I think they're getting things right, be like, no, just read this. So, stop coming to me and being like both sides. Yo, you can criticize Republicans and their policies, that I get. But the Republicans do not have corporate press doing things like this. On Thursday, Attorney General William Barr released Special Counsel Robert Mueller's 2-volume, 400-plus page report on his investigation into the Trump administration's possible collusion with the Russian government in the lead-up to the 2016 presidential election. I know, but what about the P-tape? Wait, you might be saying, remind me about the P-tape. What's on it? Is it real? Are there parodies? To help refresh your memory, we've compiled every single thing we know. Here we go. First thing, what exactly is the P-tape? The video in question reportedly shows Trump in the presidential suite at Moscow's posh Ritz-Carlton hotel, watching two women of the night relieve themselves on a bed the Obamas supposedly slept in. The incident allegedly took place in 2013 when Trump was visiting Moscow to attend the Miss Universe pageant. Oh, yeah. So is this what you would call a golden shower? No, not technically. Oh, please, I don't care about that. So who filmed it? They say. The Ritz-Carlton was allegedly under surveillance by the FSB, Russia's main state security agency, a successor to the KGB, which has microphones and hidden cameras in many of the rooms, including, it seems, the soiled presidential suite. So that means if it indeed exists, Russian President Vladimir Putin is likely in possession of the tape, which means there's a chance the president of the United States could be vulnerable to blackmail by the Russian government, or as New York's Jonathan Chait has suggested, is currently being blackmailed by them. I kid you not. The Cut then goes on to say, showing this from 2018, a year before, quote, there's a pretty good chance President Trump is being blackmailed. Oh, my brain. Do you want to see the reality of the psychosis that plagued the media for 5 years? If you still believe the claims made by these people, I'm sorry, I believe there may be no helping you. I give you now the most glorious tweet of our fake news generation. From the Huffington Post. A tape might exist of Trump doing something in an elevator. Though exactly where that somewhere is and what that something might be, no one in media can say. That's because no one in media seems to have seen the tape or is even confident it exists. The Huffington Post said, the hunt for every Trump reporter's white whale, the elevator tape. All your favorite media outlets plus Tom Arnold are racing to find a damning tape that might not even exist. Here's the best part. The best part is someone just one day was like, hey, I heard that Trump was in an elevator once. What did he do? No idea. So what's the point of the story? There's a tape of it. So there's a tape of Trump in an elevator? Yeah. Doing what? No idea. Whoa. We better find this tape. Are you kidding me? This is no joke. Their white whale? They had no allegation. Trump was in an elevator once and there's a video of it. I'm sure there's many videos of Trump in an elevator because elevators have security cameras. Not all of them. Here we go. There it was. Some 1,500 words into a story published by the Daily Beast. In the Daily Beast, the infamous Donald Trump elevator tape. Well, not the tape itself, but the first reference in a mainstream publication to the possible existence of a bombshell tape of Trump in an elevator in Trump Tower. For months, reporters at various media outlets around the country, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Associated Press, and others had chased a videotape that may not even exist. They had talked to people in the know and people close to the know and people like Tom Arnold. They talked to Tom Arnold? Why? Yo, our media failed us. They're psychotic. And this tweet sums it all up. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you to today. Once again, getting crackpot lies from these people. Stop believing them. Stop. They're spitting on you. You know what? If you still believe all this stuff, I don't know if there's anything I can do to help you. Because how many stories they put out were lies? Come on. The people who believed Jussie Smollett. That's what I need only say. Biden repeats claim that Trump called neo-Nazis good people after the Charlottesville riot in NATO speech, hinting he wants a rematch in 2024. Trump did no such thing. Trump was specifically referring to people who weren't neo-Nazis. That's the reality. Watch the full video. It was a major awakening for a lot of people because Joe Biden launched his presidential campaign accusing Trump of doing something that was overtly false. This is why I think it's important that Donald Trump does file this suit, because these are false statements of fact. Joe Biden claimed Trump called neo-Nazis good people. What Trump actually said was there were good and bad people on both sides. There were good people on both sides, and I am not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. It's not a perfect quote, partially paraphrasing, but he did say they should be condemned totally. What Trump was saying was that a bunch of run-of-the-mill middle-class people showed up, and then a bunch of neo-Nazis showed up. And the neo-Nazis were bad, but the regular people who showed up were not bad. They were good people. Trump even said there were some good people on the other side as well. Trump gave a nuanced approach to it because apparently he was actually reading what was going on and the media took it and lied and Joe Biden took it and lied. And Joe Biden is lying to you now. Joe Biden's the guy who told you we were going to build back better. Now what are we looking at? Food shortages, gas prices at record highs, record inflation. Wholesale costs are through the roof. And now we have looming food shortages in this fall. We're nearing maybe even World War III. Does that sound like building back better to you? Yeah, sounds like failure to me. During his press conference at NATO headquarters on Thursday, President Joe Biden once again claimed, yeah, we said that. Speaking to reporters in Brussels, the president was asked about potential concerns for U.S.'s European allies over Trump possibly getting reelected. Well, Joe Biden said he'd be very fortunate to face Trump in 2024. No, he wouldn't. Let me show you why. Now, I can be the first to admit that favorability is not the same as approval. But right now, while Donald Trump is viewed unfavorably at 50.6%, favorably at 44.8%, Joe Biden's approval rating, and I'm using 538's metrics, 52.8% disapproval and only 42% approval. Granted, job approval and favorability, not the same things. I know. I just think it's funny that there's more people who view Trump favorably than who approve of Joe Biden's job as president. Talk about amazing. Now I want to talk about where we're headed in this country. And I think it's somewhere disastrous. Of course, we have potential World War III. There's always civil war on the mind. Take a look at this from the Daily Mail. Georgia voters file lawsuit saying Marjorie Taylor Greene should be disqualified from running in the midterm because she voluntarily aided and engaged in insurrection on January 6th. They say the complaint charges that Greene voluntarily aided and engaged in an insurrection to obstruct the peaceful transfer of presidential power, disqualifying her from serving as a member of Congress. It's fake news. I mean, it's a ridiculous argument, and I'll show you why. The legal filing points to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment that says no member of Congress who has taken the oath of office shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the U.S. The Constitution's definition of engagement is broad in that an individual merely has to voluntarily assist the insurrection. Quote, planning or helping plan an insurrection or rebellion satisfies that definition, the complaint says, as does planning a demonstration or march upon a government building. That the individual, in this case Greene, could result in an insurrection, the filing argues. They say, the documents point to a comment Greene made on Newsmax TV on January 5th. This is our 1776 moment, she proclaimed, saying she was echoing what had been said at a meeting with other GOP lawmakers. The United States declared independence from Britain on 1776. Yeah, I think we know that, but I guess the Daily Mail British readers may not. In the same appearance, Greene applauded then Georgia Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler for signaling she would contest some of the Electoral College votes on January 6. Furthermore, the planners of the January 6 demonstration report that she met with them beforehand. The stated goal of the organizers was to pressure Vice President Pence into disregarding the electoral votes from several states and declaring Trump the winner of the 2020 election. What the left consistently tries to do is conflate a rally that occurred far away and some permitted rallies that happened nearby with the fact that many other people stormed the building. Just because you had a rally doesn't mean you had anything to do with those who stormed the building. In fact, many of these rallies were ongoing when the people stormed the building. In fact, Alex Jones, who was nearby and had a permit, was bullhorning, "Do not go in the building." So there you go. They're lying to you. Free Speech for the People was also part of a similar suit filed by 11 North Carolina voters hoping to keep Madison Cawthorne off the midterm ballot for similar reason. A federal judge blocked that lawsuit earlier this month because it's ridiculous. A judge has already thrown out the exact same lawsuit against Madison Cawthorne, filed by the same dishonest lawyers, Greene told thedailymail.com via a statement. This is the same evil playbook that dishonest communist Democrats use against President Trump and his family. Now they're using it on me because they know I'm effective and will not bow to the DC machine responsible for $30 trillion in debt, a national security crisis at the border, and out-of-control skyrocketing inflation, gas prices, and crime. I'll never stop fighting for the people of Northwest Georgia, the lawmaker continued. As I've said many times before, I'm vehemently opposed to all forms of political violence, including Black Lives Matter terror attacks that were funded by Kamala Harris and Ilhan Omar over the Democrat fundraising platform Act Blue. Now, that's actually true, but let me clarify. Act Blue was used, I believe it was Act Blue, to help fund political activism and bailing. No. I think it was organizations organizing protests for Black Lives Matter. GoFundMe, I think it was bailing people out. I could be wrong. I've never encouraged political violence and never will, she added. On Wednesday, she was quoted in Washington Times saying that people in D.C. don't understand how she speaks because they live in a bubble. They are disconnected from real Americans, and that is their problem, not mine. I believe and share the same thoughts and feelings of the people in our district. In her nearly 15 months in Congress, Greene had stood out because she's dabbled in conspiracy theories, gotten into arguments with her peers in the hallways, and shutted down President Joe Biden during his month's State of the Union address. I ultimately don't care about their opinion on conspiracy theories because everything is a conspiracy theory, and then 6 months later, it's not. So, spare me. Now, what I find fascinating is that they've already tried this lawsuit, and it's failed. The New York Times says judge blocks effort, to disqualify Cawthorne from ballot as insurrectionist. They say, a district judge ruled that the Amnesty Act of 1872, which forgave Confederates, overruled a clause in the 14th Amendment barring insurrectionists from Congress. U.S. District Judge Richard E. Myers II, an appointee of President Donald J. Trump, stepped in to squelch an effort by lawyers and voters in North Carolina who had filed a motion before the state's Board of Elections, declaring Mr. Cawthorne, 26, ineligible for re-election under the Constitution. They had contended that the first-term Republican support for rioters who attacked the Capitol on January 6 made him an insurrectionist. I don't recall him ever issuing support for those people, but sure. And therefore barred him from office under the little-known third section of the 14th Amendment. Judge Myers sided with the argument of James Bopp Jr., prominent conservative campaign lawyer, who noted that Section 3 concluded with a caveat. Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. The Amnesty Act of 1872 did just that when it declared that all political disabilities imposed by the third section of the 14th Amendment were hereby removed from all persons whomsoever. The ruling angered lawyers in the case who argued that the 1872 law applied only to Civil War Confederates, not any insurrectionist in the future, and that a law could not usurp a constitutional amendment. Actually, I agree with that second part. I don't think this applies to Madison Cawthorne, however, because he didn't actually engage in any insurrection. But I do think it's fair to say the intent of that act was specifically for people engaged in the Civil War because we were trying to mend this country. And it wouldn't make sense that this law could override a constitutional amendment. According to this court ruling, the 1872 amnesty law, by a trick of wording that, although no one noticed at the time, completely undermined Congress's careful decision to write the insurrectionist disqualification clause to apply to future insurrectionists. Well, if the language is there, then so be it. But Mr. Bopp said Friday that because the 14th Amendment applied to past and future insurrections, so did the subsequent amnesty. Okay, no, I got to take it back. I actually agree with that. If it says Congress can override it, and they did, then we're done. It actually says Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability, and they did. End of story. Now, that's interesting. I think that was their intent. I don't think it was a misreading. I think at the time, people realized there may come a time in this country where we have conflict among the states. And if we are to be able to ever end that conflict, people need to be able to say, fine, then I will get a seat in the White House, or in the White House or in Congress. Think about it this way. If someone ever again came to be at odds with the government and said, I will challenge this, and then there's a large group of people and a civil war breaks out, those people are going to say, we will never surrender because there's no opportunity. More importantly, there's always an opportunity for you to go into Congress and challenge these things directly, in which case I think it made sense, the provision. They say Mr. Fine called for that ruling to be appealed, but the activists who brought the challenge cannot do that since the injunction was aimed at the state. Only the North Carolina State Board of Elections or the state attorney general can appeal, and it is not clear that either will get involved. The challengers had hoped to at least get to question Mr. Cawthorne under oath for his role in stoking violence. Just the New York Times. You're a garbage paper. Mr. Cawthorne turned to the federal courts to intervene before the Board of Elections could set a hearing to determine his eligibility. The effort to block Mr. Cawthorne from running for re-election would now be over. Mr. Bopp said, I never underestimate the willingness of lawyers to keep fighting. Yeah, well, now they're coming for Clarence Thomas. The news today. Texts reveal wife of Supreme Court judge urged 2020 election overturned. So what? Did Clarence Thomas say anything? Did he make statements? And besides, their opinions. Calls for Clarence Thomas's resignation after wife's text about January 6 are revealed. If he refuses, Congress must move to impeach him, said one critic who has taken issue with the actions of Virginia Thomas. You know what? Just do it. Just do it. Just whatever, man. No one cares about what is true and just. Everybody, what I mean by that is everyone is pointing the finger at everybody else, and we are so at odds with each other. Just what's the point of sitting here? Clarence Thomas is fantastic, in my opinion. He's done nothing wrong, and the opinions of his wife are irrelevant. But they're saying he better be removed. You know what? Just file it. I'm sick of it. I'm done. We clearly don't agree. We will never agree. There are people who tell you there is no definition for the word woman. I don't see how we coexist. How do we solve for this problem? I don't think there's a way to solve it. I really don't. I don't know what that means. I'm just sick of it. From timcast.com. Late Thursday, calls for the hospitalized Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas to resign or be impeached were being circulated after text messages between his wife and the former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, urging efforts to overturn the election, were revealed. He's not his wife. Now, Clarence Thomas has since been discharged from the hospital. He appears to be okay. They say the text messages were part of 2,320 messages that Meadows provided to the House Select Committee investigating the events of January 6th. In an interview with the Washington Free Beacon, she has denied any conflict of interest between her activism and her husband's work on the Supreme Court. Clarence doesn't discuss his work with me. I don't involve him in my work, she said. Critics have spoken out and called for Justice Thomas to resign. Given that Justice Thomas has already made known he won't recuse himself from cases related to his wife's right-wing activism, and the damning evidence of his wife's involvement in this attack on our democracy, Thomas is clearly unfit to serve in the nation's highest court, said Sarah Lipton-Lubet, executive director of the Take Back the Court Action Fund. If he refuses, Congress must move to impeach him. I just don't care. I don't care what your opinions are. I don't care what you have to say. You just want power. That's all anyone wants. I'm just over it. There's no honor, there's no integrity, and there's no attempt to move this country forward. The left just says, burn it all down, take what you can, strip it to the core. There's no point in arguing. There's just none. I don't know where we go as a country if this is the case, because I don't see any reason why we come together. Literally none. Many people thought COVID would bring us together. I don't think so. There's the trope from Watchmen, graphic novel and film, of a unified world combating a shared enemy. In the comic, it was a fake alien invasion that stopped the Cold War. In the movie, they made it seem like one superhero destroyed a bunch of cities around the planet. And a common enemy unified everybody. That won't work. Russia could do whatever they want. We won't unify. We won't. China can do what they want. We will not unify. We are so fractured. And I believe that Russia, North Korea, Iran, China, they all know it. You can see it. The left wants power. They want to crush anyone who opposes them. They believe they can use any means necessary. There's groups that literally call themselves that. The right has their share of zealots. Of course they do. But at an institutional level, the right is sitting here trying to play this game fairly while the left isn't. And that means often the right will lose. I don't know where we all go in November. I think the polls show a strong likelihood of Republicans winning, but I don't think Republicans will do anything. I think the Republicans will win, and then they'll go sit on their hands. A few years later, people will be tired of them sitting on their hands. Democrats will end up winning, and once again start steamrolling this country and burning it to the ground. I can only tell you this. Go out and vote in the primaries. For Congress, vote in your state and local elections. Vote for your state rep. Vote for your state senator. Be the change you want to see in the world. You better go out and figure out who your local reps are. Do it right now. Figure out when your primary is. Vote out the establishment neocon types. Do it, or forever hold your peace. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. tonight over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.